right, everybody. Welcome back to the FCA Locker Room, the show where we explore how faith and sports come together to transform lives on and off the field. I'm happy to be here with you guys. I got a very exciting guest who's got an awesome story to share with you guys. I really think it's going to hit home for a lot of you, for a lot of our listeners. At least I'm praying that it does. He has a great story that I've been able to hear bits and pieces of. So looking forward to diving into that a little bit more. So today, our guest is Mike McLaughlin. Man, Mike, he's been on FCA staff with us for a few years. Got to know him through some of our meetings, and him and I are in a small group for work, and just getting to know him and his heart and a little bit of his background, his sports background, and what he's doing right now in the state of Maine with FCA. It's really encouraging. Really awesome guy to get to know, and so we're just gonna jump into it. But Mike, thanks for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Chenzo. Appreciate it, brother. I love what you guys are doing. Love hearing about you and Justin in this podcast as well. And so, man, anytime I get to spend a little bit more time with you is a blessing. So, yeah, man, happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah. So right now, Mike, where I'm at in New York, we still have like a foot of snow on the ground. What's it like up there in Maine right now?
Same, and we got the what we have going on right now is extra rugged because we get the snow. Well, we got the snow, but then we also get. I don't think it's been over 15 degrees, 18
Yeah.
degrees in the last like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
So that's why my family and I are headed to Florida on Friday.
Oh, sweet. There you go.
But also in Florida, it's also only like something like 50 degrees. So, but that's
Oh,
all right.
listen,
We'll
I'll
take it.
take it right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny. All right, Mike. So before we get into the real stuff, we're gonna ask you just a total brain boggler. Hopefully, we'll see what you come up here. But
Oh man.
all right, if animals could play sports, right? If
Oh,
animals could play sports, which animal would absolutely dominate the football field?
oh, man. If animals could play sports, what animal would dominate the football field? I would say it would have to be a lion.
Yeah,
I mean, my son, I was gonna go just for repetition because my two sons, my two boys absolutely love gorillas right now. They love Johnny from Sing one and
okay,
Sing two.
yeah,
So, and I do too. Gosh, I love them too. But I would say lion, yeah.
yeah.
I'd have
What
to.
what position you putting him at?
I'm putting him at middle linebacker. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and there's a reason why. Actually, a guy I was on a roster with and um, a guy I looked up to and was one heck of a football player. There's a reason why he has a lion on his arm and was a middle linebacker, Ray Lewis.
yeah, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk real life now. Let's hear a little bit about. Just give us a little bit of intro to who you are. Tell our listeners, take us back to when you were growing up. What was life like growing up?
Yeah, I grew up right outside of Boston. About I was about 15 minutes outside of Boston, with younger brother, my brother Dan, 3 years younger than me. And we grew up in a city called Woburn, Mass. My mom and my dad were awesome. I had a great, absolutely love my mom. I actually who we're going to visit down in Florida. And we grew up in a home that we were loved well. Tough love, no question about it. My and my brother and I were definitely remind me of my two kids right now, very
Yeah,
much like Mac, don't strangle Cam, right? Or Mike, don't strangle Dan. Is this right? It's all it's so, but that's what we did. But with that said, we grew up in a home that we were loved well, but we weren't brought up in the gospel. We weren't brought up in the love of Christ. We were brought up in, hey, um, respect one another, love one another. But a lot of what we experienced, and my parents specifically experienced, and I think was a primary reason why we weren't um, I don't want to say religious family, but a Christian family, was because my parents were both in separate towns, in Stoneham and Woburn, where they grew up, were very much influenced in a negative way, hurt by the Catholic Church.
Mm.
And some pretty severe things that went on in the 60s and 70s that involved the Catholic Church. That also involved my both my the McLaughlin family and the Kinton, my mother's maiden name, the Kinton family. And so I think they saw organized religion and just said, "Yeah, nope, we're all set with that." And so that's not really all they knew, which was really sad. Um,
Yeah.
but what's really cool, last thing I'll say, what's really cool now is they have both come to saving faith through my brother and I's witness,
Wow.
which
That's
is
great.
I mean, which is really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
And they're still working through a lot, but um, to just see that it's about a person and not and not a place or a bunch of rituals or a bunch of things you do on Sunday,
Mm.
um, is has been I to yeah has been eye opening to them.
That's
So
great.
yeah.
That's awesome. So, were you always a football guy? Was that just always your sport?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it, man. I truthfully, I really did. I really loved. I did. I love football. I love playing. Even just pick up football in the backyard, just playing with my friends, with my brother and my dad. So my dad was played UMass and then played in the United States Football League, the USFL, which was a pretty big league for. I think it was there. It was around for 5 years. Um, and competed actually took a lot of players from the NFL, Herschel Walker, Steve Young, Reggie White. Um, it was a legitimate league back in the early mid 80s. So he played professionally. And then my uncle also played for actually played for Bill Belichick when Bill Belichick was the position coach for the Giants.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
was a special teams captain for the Giants. So it was with the Packers for I want to say a year or two, and then it was with the Giants for 4 years. And so and then that my uncle Joe, who played for the Giants, had two boys as well, Bobby and Joey, who lived. They grew up in Cape Cod, and so we basically grew up with them. They were my brothers. So I basically had three brothers, and
Yeah.
and we all man that was our Thanksgiving Day. Like what I look forward to the most was Thanksgiving Day mud football games with the four of us, 2-on-2,
Yeah.
and then in Christmas, when it was snowing, we would go out. It would just pick up football, and that's what we did. And my dad, and my uncle, they didn't force us to play football by any means. It
Mhm.
was just we love to play the sport, and we played other. I mean, we played basketball, we played baseball. Loved basketball and baseball, but football just seemed to be
Sure.
our sport, or my sport. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you end up going to Boston College, but even before that, like through high school and stuff, was that like always your dream? Like, hey, I want to go play Division I football, I want to be in the NFL. Like, was that pretty much what, like when you're a little kid and people always ask, what do you want to do? You want to be an NFL player?
It really was. It really was, man. I really did. I just really, really wanted to go play big time Division I football and then go play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that hadn't been done in our town before, so it was something that I really that was our God. That was
Sure.
my God. That was my IDOL, my idol. My idol was, my that was my God was being that's kind of where we grew up. It was kind of um, you know, our God was either you were successful in athletics or you were successful in business.
Mm.
It was kind of one of the two. And if you did both of them, and it was double thumbs up.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like, you know, um, how you would rate success on the athletic field or or in business making money.
Yeah.
And so right, wrong, or indifferent, that's kind of the way I grew up. And so for me personally, and what else? The last thing I'll say about sports for me, especially football, is I was because of that, because I wasn't rooted in Christ and because I wasn't rooted and grounded in my identity in Jesus, I was like a glass man. I, I played tough on the outside, but I was a scared little boy inside. I
Mm.
really was. And I was gosh, as a sophomore, I was 6 foot, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And so I played the cool guy. But man, if somebody said something to me that I didn't like or about me, or I had, I just had no defense mechanisms whatsoever. It crushed me. And so one of the ways that I got to hide from that or just forget about kind of everything was football. And
Mm,
and basketball and baseball, but football primarily. So that served as a god for me, and it protected me. It really
yeah.
did. Sports protected me, and not in a good way.
Sure.
But that's really what it was. And then lastly, what I'll mention, just because it was a big part of my story and a big part of what the Lord was gracious to use and bringing me to a knowledge of Him was in the city that I grew up in, along with playing sports, came substance use. That's just what that was kind of normal, which is crazy to think about. It was normal for a 14, 15-year-old kid to be out drinking beer on the weekends after games.
Yeah.
It's just even to just say that.
Yeah.
But that was back when I'm 38 now. So back then that was a very normal thing to do. And so I did it because I played as a freshman, both basketball and football. And so I would go out, and then that hit that man, that caught my attention right out of the gate.
Mm,
That became for me personally much more than celebratory. That was a comfort blanket. That was a
mm,
I started to drink and use drugs, marijuana on a daily basis because I was because I man I, because I was so yeah I was just such a glass man, truthfully,
yeah.
that I started to use substances from my sophomore year of high school on a daily basis.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. And I think that's important for, a lot of hopefully listeners here, like, especially if you're young athletes, like there's so many, like, just listen to Mike and we're gonna get more into your story about like college and the NFL, but like this was a guy who probably was like the big man on campus at high school, right? And seemed like he had it all together, but truthfully, like there was a void in your life and in your heart. And we're going to talk about that transition and how you found, your relationship with the Lord. But I think it is still something that a lot of teenagers probably still deal with a lot. It was like that those worldly desires and easy just to find things to cope with and other ways to hide. Like you wouldn't have admitted it back then that you were like, this broken kid, but like you were. And,
yeah,
I think a
definitely.
lot of our listeners are probably in that same boat. I mean, heck, I was, a little bit of a different story, but I was in that same boat with you too, man. Like, especially back then. All right, so let's kind of continue on the journey here then. So now tell us about Boston College. Tell us about your experience there. Whatever you're comfortable sharing with that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of it kind of just segued into Boston College. What more of the same, and was able to, on paper, on the outside looking in, I was able to kind of keep it together. I ended up being a 2-year captain, a junior captain at Boston College, and then in my senior year, started at middle linebacker for almost 3 years, and had awesome relationships with my coaches. Um, and other players. Now I really, really, really wish I just look at what we do, Chenzo, for a living, what the Lord's called us to do, and just it's incredible to work with young student athletes now who, I mean, we have 13, 14-year-old kids who are leading others, sometimes leading teachers and coaches into a relationship with Jesus. And so with that said, I did have a great experience at Boston College and even at Woburn, but man, do I wish I knew the Lord when I was playing at that. Like, wow, the freedom that I would have played with. Because I played scared. That's um, part of what made me good at playing middle linebacker is I played scared and I played angry.
Mm,
And I guess playing angry or an edge is not, there's not that's okay, but um the freedom that I would play with now, and that some of these young student athletes that we work with have the freedom that they have to play, just knowing that their identity is in Christ and Christ alone, and man, they can go and play to the glory of God is an amazing thing. So, I don't know. I just add that because it's awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, how many? I talked to a lot of our staff that, man, they wish like, man, like I wish I had somebody like in within
Oh
FCA coming in and impacting me and intersecting with me in an earlier spot of my
man,
life. But I
yeah,
think that's what that's what gives us the passion to do what we do, right? And to
yeah,
you know
amen.
encourage and empower these young athletes, but the coaches and our
Yeah,
volunteers because we see it like we're living proof. Like, man, like I was not headed in the right direction. And at any
yeah,
point, like, my life could have gone in a very different direction. Thankfully, the Lord met me where I was. But you know, man, like if 14-year-old Mike, if you had an FCA person,
oh,
in your neighborhood, in your community, who knows what that could have brought for you?
yeah. Who knows? And so yeah, it's just it's really
Yeah.
cool to see what the Lord's doing through FCA. But yeah, so at Boston College, that's what it was. I just got by in class. I didn't very much just got by. But what is worth noting, I think, for me, and what was a big part of my story was able to keep it together on the outside, looking in. But what I was also introduced to in 2000, I think it was 2006 or seven ish, um, because I couldn't continue to medicate, that's really what it was for me. I was medicating with marijuana, medicating with drugs and alcohol. Um, we partied at BC and did all that stuff, but I was introduced to OxyContin.
Mm,
And so that really became when I found painkillers, because, drug testing and all that stuff. And, a lot of folks, a lot of guys are prescribed painkillers. And so yeah, found OxyContin and became truthfully was able to manage it a little bit, but really became dependent on painkillers and OxyContin around my junior year.
yeah. And
Um,
did that continue into like your NFL career?
yeah, yeah. I've actually in the NFL so I got invited to the NFL Combine, and failed a drug test
Mm,
for oxycodone.
yeah,
Um, I had a prescription for it, but I didn't need it.
sure,
Yeah, and I mean, and that continued at my time with us. I was in Baltimore 2010, and then Denver in 2011. Just was on the practice squad, got caught, and was only with Denver for a very short period of time. It was actually during the lockout. And man, a lot of it was just because I at that time, by the time we got to 2010, 11, I was addicted to painkillers. And
mm,
so my the I was the 53rd guy on the roster. I wasn't the guy,
sure,
I wasn't big contracts and solidified and secure. So the level of consistency and effort that I needed and the passion that was needed on a daily basis. I mean, I was working for my job every day. Um, I just I wasn't there because of my addiction. Um,
mhm,
and that really ended up killing my what was my career in
yeah.
the NFL. It just
So
wasn't
what?
there. The passion was gone.
Yeah. So what was it in your life that this transformation started happening, right? Like now I know you, right? And you're not that person anymore, and you're a believer in Christ. That's where your faith is. Like, where was that transformation? Like, where did some of that substance abuse and just that brokenness? Where did that kind of like start to really break down? And then where was your transition into Christ?
Phew, yeah. Oh man, it was a long time. I mean, because we're talking 2010, 11, and then I went and got caught and sold commercial real estate in downtown Boston, for 2012, 13, 14, another 3 years of just pain
Mm.
and I loved football. I didn't love selling commercial real estate.
Yeah.
I was just doing that because there was a guy who
Mm.
was a great man, Scott Dragos, great guy. He was stood by my corner through all of it, and I put him through a lot. But played at Boston College and then played for the Chicago Bears, played tight end, and just saw me and said, "Man, I think you'd make a great commercial real estate broker. You want to come work for me?" You said, "Sure, yeah, yeah." But um, yeah, I mean, pain. I would say because that went so it went from OxyContin to I went from the only kid in Woburn High School to go play in the NFL to fast forward another 6 7 years to I was back at home, and I was stealing from people. I was lying to everybody. I was using heroin.
Mm.
Not IV heroin, but I was still, I was going to buy heroin I was working in downtown Boston, pulling up to a job in a Cadillac in a full suit, and then going to buy heroin in the middle of the day in
Wow.
downtown Mattapan. That's where it got me, and all the people around the closest to me, I was lying to, stealing from, and I would have kept doing it, but God was gracious enough to finally just pull the rug out. And so all what that looked like were all the people around me and all the people that were closest to me just said, "All right, th this is just we love you. This is just too much. Like this is out of control. We're not going to help you." Like so really it was like people were just, "Hey, we can't help you out anymore, Mike. You need to go get help."
Hmm.
And that's what it looked like. It looked like people who loved me and cared about me and just said, "Man, we're here for you. We love you. Go get help." And so I did. I went to what it was called the spiritual retreat, which had nothing to do with the gospel. It
Okay.
was just a 12-step program. And I still knew to this point knew nothing about the gospel. Nothing. It was just complete dependence. Complete. I just need to survive, and I can't steal from anybody anymore and take from anyone. And so it looks like I got to go get. I guess I need to go get help, or whatever that looks like. So I went up to New Hampshire in 2015, spent whatever it was, 4 or 5 months at that place, and it just at least ripped all that stuff out, so I couldn't medicate anymore, and it was beautiful because it left me with Mike, the little boy Mike,
Mm.
who needed all the help and was medicating for a reason. I was back to that, which was beautiful because, man, then finally I got invited. Long story short, that place sends men and women out to Portland, Maine to live in sober homes. Um,
Okay.
so I went from Plymouth, New Hampshire, Portland, Maine. To me, so I live in Portland now. Portland, Maine was like Canada. I'm not going, right? I'm not going to Portland, Maine. I don't even know I couldn't even point that out on a map.
Yeah.
And so that's how, so whatever. But I did because I was like, man, I got nothing. I wasn't married yet, didn't have kids yet. So didn't want to go back to my job. So I was like, yeah, all right, sure, I'll go live in this place, and ended up getting invited to. So that little boy just stripped of all the comforts, all the idols. Um, was empty as could be, empty as ever. And there were a lot of people. It was hard for me because it was confusing, because there were a lot of people in these sober homes that seemed to be, you know, killing it, crushing it, like
Sure.
doing the
They had
12
their
step
life
thing.
together.
Yeah, yeah, had life together, or like getting it back. And I'm like, man, I feel worse. What's going on? And it was just so gracious and kind of the Lord, because he didn't want me to find, because what all those men and women were doing were just replacing one idol with another. So a
Mm.
lot of them were, whether it was they were, struggling with sleeping around, or gambling, or food, or whatever it was. And those things just weren't doing it for me. And I got invited by a guy who ended up going into doing some business with, invited me to a church service, little church plant, probably about 50 people. He said, "Man, I'd love, like, I know this is weird. I only know you from coming to the gym, but would love for you to come with myself and one of my buddies to Popper's Chapel. And I was like, like sure, whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, yeah. Again, God was kind enough to leave me dependent, so I was like, I need something. So okay, I'll go. And I ended up going. Um, the service was at 6 o'clock at night on Sunday, and heard the gospel for the very first. I think for the very first time in my life, and what I do remember very much so was between the worship, between the fellowship, and between hearing the message preached was I really did. I mean, I know we get scared of don't talk about feeling things or too
Yeah.
much or experiential, but whatever. Man, the power of the gospel should move you to feel something. And I
Yeah.
felt something for the very first time. I was like, man, I don't know what that, and the guy who ended up becoming a close friend of mine, the pastor, tells a story. I guess I went up to him and said at the end of the service and said, I don't know what that was, but I'm coming back. Like I felt something, I'm coming back, and I ended up like missing like one service in the next 5 years or something. So
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So that's that was a long-winded, but that
No, that's also it's I love hearing stories like this. I love hearing people's testimonies. Like it's one of the most powerful tools I think we have as Christians, right? But because it resonates with so many different people in
mm,
different areas and different seasons of their life. But the thing that you always see that's such a common denominator is like we're all broken.
mm,
Um, and sometimes it takes us longer than others or whatever the case might be. But like we start to realize like okay, I'm broken, and without God, like I am broken and I'm small and I'm weak, but with God, like I can feel fulfilled. Like I'm with him, I'm strong. Without him, I'm weak.
yeah,
um
yeah,
and sometimes he has to bring us down those paths to like make us realize that, and to realize like yeah, like I'm not really going to be able to go anywhere without him, and just I'm going to
yeah,
continue down this broken road. But that's awesome, man. Like that's an incredible story, and rejoicing for you in that moment, right? I'm like listening to your story. I'm like,
yeah.
what's he gonna feel?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, man, and that's that's what it was. And oddly enough, Chenzo, God was so kind in that one of, and he's still. So we're not at that church. The church has closed its door, has since closed its doors. But this gentleman um, who I became really close friends with, who I met that night. He wasn't the one who invited me, but he was the one who this guy said, "Hey man, I got a guy I think I really would like you to meet." Who so he ended up playing. So he ended up he's from Gorham, Maine, which is the town over from Portland, and ended up playing. He was with the He was with the Ravens the year before I was there.
Hmm.
And so just in tiny little church plan in Portland,
Yeah.
Kendrick
What's going on in
Ken-
Portland, man?
Kendrick Valentine, yeah, and is now so he's a deacon at the church where I'm at now, and he serves as a deacon, I serve as an elder, um, and we ended up just man, we just went through a lot of life together, just kind of messing up, messing things up, and just continuing to come. That was our motto for the first like 3 or 4 years was, man, if there's a church, if there's something going on, just show up.
Hmm.
Like if there's a men's Bible study, just show up. If there's a prayer meeting, just show up. If there's Sunday service, just show up. Don't try to overthink it. Don't try to. And God was really gracious in revealing Himself to us in that motto, like just show up. And if
Yeah.
something's going on and there's a movement of the Spirit, just show up, experience it, and you're going to learn about Jesus.
Just show up. Like it.
Yeah, just show
Like
up.
show up. I like that.
Uh,
So talk us through a little bit now. What was your introduction to FCA? Like, how'd you start getting involved with that, and then eventually coming on staff to where you are
Yeah,
now?
I actually, truthfully, I didn't know anything about FCA until we moved from that church from Paupers to, oh no, at about 2000, I think it was about 2018, 19, I met Aaron Mann, who served as the state director here in Maine, and is now a regional an area director down in Georgia, where he's from. He
Mhm.
since moved back. He moved came was called by God from Georgia, up here to um, to take over as the state director in Maine. And I ended up meeting him, and he just talked to me a little bit about what FCA is, and just just thought it was really really cool. And kind of that was it. The original meeting was just that. And then a year or so went by, and then we ended up going to the same church together, which is the church I'm at now, where I got to know him a lot more, a lot better. Got to know his family, and we got to, yeah, we just started to build a relationship together. And he invited me to come on to his board. So I served on the state of Maine. I was on his board, and just got to experience FCA through that. And about a year and a half or so went by. He was called back to Georgia, and he had asked me about a year in if I would have a desire to come on staff, and um, I just wasn't feeling called by the Lord yet. So
Mhm.
I said no. I don't yeah, I don't think I'm ready yet. And then again, fast forward to about a year and a half after that, he said, "Hey, man, my family and I are being called back to Georgia. I think I think it's time. What do you think?" And then when he brought it back around the second time, I was already feeling I was working commercial construction, and the Lord was really gracious, and I loved what I was doing, but he started to pull kind of some of the joy from that, and
Sure.
started to like I had a lack of I had a lack of contentment in what I was doing towards the end, and
Mhm.
right around that time when Aaron had asked me, it was just like it was an
It
obvious,
was time.
yeah, it was time.
Yeah,
It was time. So
that's awesome. So, before we kind of wrap up, just, tell us some things that are happening with FCA there in Maine, maybe some things that you're super excited about or, that are on the horizon.
yeah, I truthfully, I love our staff. I really do. Cole Milazzo, Logan Gailitis, and Kirsten Gailitis, um, um, are I just actually that's what excites me most about FCA Maine is our commitment to prayer and our commitment to the word. I just actually came, or not just came, but this morning we had um, an FCA staff meeting, which looked like an hour and a half of staff prayer, of just getting together and praying and seeking the Lord,
Mhm.
and yeah, just asking Him to help us and help our student athletes to know Jesus deeper. And so I think that's, if I'm honest, I know that might be simple, but that is what excites me the most about FCA Maine is our staff's commitment to the Word of God, the the ordinary means of grace of prayer, and then how much they love the local church.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that looks like what in FCA terms what we love and what we get probably the most excited about, and at least in Southern Maine, is our huddle ministry. Um, so the weekly student athlete led
Hmm.
um, Bible study, which is I think yeah I think we have between colleges and high schools right now, um, 25
Wow.
going on any given, um, 23, 25 on any given week. Yeah, so that's
That's fantastic.
yeah, that's what we're yeah. So as you
Yeah.
know, man, there's so
That's,
much to be excited about. We could talk for hours, but that's
yeah. We'll
yeah.
have to have like two more episodes just
Yeah,
about
that, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So
So as we finish, got one more question. If you could just if there's something you could share with the audience, maybe what would you say to an athlete who is feeling successful but empty? I felt like that's kind of where you were at as a kid and in college and things like that. You were successful, but like you said, you were like that little broken boy. You were just made of glass,
mhm.
right? Like, who would you say to an athlete who's in that position?
What would I say to an athlete who's in that position, who is successful but empty? That's a great question, and I think actually it it kind of came up in our staff meeting this morning, and I think what I would encourage you, young athlete, and what I encourage myself and our staff, what we were talking about around the table, truthfully, Chenzo, was the admission, the willingness to admit it.
Mm,
Like the willingness to it, because that's what I did. And what I did was I tried to hide from, I just would lie. I tried to hide it, tried to push it away. And just know, I would say the encouragement that we would, right, Chenzo, that we would give is that's what that's what sin does. Like that, you're not unique. That's a, I thought I was unique and I wasn't. It was just, so I was trying to hide and lie about the way the things that were going through my head and and the things I was thinking because I thought I was in some way unique where I was just a regular broken kid.
yeah.
That's what's awesome about what FCA does and what we do is what I experienced and when I said I experienced that it was what I experienced was grace. But I experienced it through, I had to first experience it through a person. God was
Mm,
kind enough and gracious enough to use a couple people in my life to allow me to talk about real things that were going on in here and the brokenness that was going on in here, not hide it anymore, but actually talk about it and then have somebody say, yeah, me too. And then just be like, wait, what? That was it. I know that that might sound whatever. That might sound real simple to a lot of people. But man, for me and the amount of pride I had and the amount of how afraid I was to talk about some of the things that were going on in here and the brokenness, um, man, was just well, yeah, that was it. It was life changing to experience the
yeah.
gospel in that way. So I would say, yeah, the willingness to admit it. Just admit it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, that's a good word. And I think it's so important. Like you just said, like, they were like, yeah, me too. Like we get into this thing where we're embarrassed, right? We're ashamed, and we're like, well, we don't want to tell anyone because no one else is going through this. No one else has ever done that. Like I don't want to admit
Yeah,
that to people.
yeah,
Well, man, like how many people are going through the same thing? And I think that
exactly,
that's why
exact same thing.
it was important just to hear your story, and hopefully this is reaching someone that like there probably is someone listening to this podcast right now that is going through a similar situation that you had. And that's why, man, I could go off again, but like this is why I think our testimonies are so important because
So
on the outside, man, it looks like we have all this stuff together as Christians, right? But then when we start to get to know each other, like, man, there were some broken times, there were some bad times, but why does it
yeah,
look like we have it together? Why do we have a joy? Well, that's because of the gospel, right? That's
yeah.
because we were saved in that brokenness.
Mm,
And so
mm,
that's
mm.
that's the important
Amen.
part for
Amen.
us.
We're loved in and through all that brokenness. That's what
Right.
Jesus did.
Yeah.
That's why the gospel is so beautiful, is because he's like, that's why I died.
Yeah.
I came
Absolutely.
for that. That's okay. It's okay. That's
Absolutely.
it. Don't push me away anymore. Come, please. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's
anyways,
great.
yeah.
Well, Mike, this was awesome. I love getting to know you a little bit more of your story. It really resonated with me being able to just again different situations, but just like the connection that I had is similar of like just growing up and being successful in sports, but like
Mm,
having a lot of brokenness at the same time. But and hopefully this is encouraging our listeners to kind of reflect, right? Like, where is your identity rooted? If it's just in that helmet, right, on the football field. But you're like you said, you were trying to push everything down. You weren't. You were trying to
mm.
shield yourself from the realities of life. Like, what does that look like? But when you found your identity in Christ and who you are, a son of God, right? Like, man,
Yeah. Amen.
you're living free. You're free of those shackles and those things that were holding you down. And so
Yeah.
we encourage our listeners to really reflect on what is your identity rooted in, and what does real joy look like for you guys. It can be on the field at times, but that's fading. That leaves at some point, right? Where are
Mm.
we finding our true joy? And it might not be commercial real estate or commercial construction,
Wasn't for
uh,
me.
but you will find it in the Lord, and He'll direct your path. And Mike's joy now is in FCA, and that's awesome.
Amen.
Yeah. So
Amen.
thanks, Mike. We appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and just being an encouragement to us. And love having you as a teammate here on
Yeah.
with
Same,
FCA
brother.
also.
Yeah. Same. Thank you so much, man. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. But in the meantime, remember, success can fade, but knowing why you're created never does. Take care.